Side.
Right. So we'll begin with the
first
slide.
Okay.
And
reading from
Natural Ether Energy. All right. So Natural Ether Energy is a book authored by Parna Babianun, also known as Dr. Malachi Z. York. No, I don't have that one there. But essentially, he explains in the book about what your blood consists of, or what is actually powering your blood. Okay. So, verse 1 of Natural Ether Energy. Lahe amtkum kharadu shalilpa kale makwan. For you all children of the omniverse, of the Khatir Makwanat multiverses, of the Thalu Makwanat triverses, of the Athu Makwanat dual verses, of this Wahu Makwan universe. The universal reality, verse 2, Nuwapu Nuwapians. This is what gives this universe of nature, life, form, breath, cells, atoms, and order. It is, in fact, universal ether, Fatir Yao, natural ether, unity with the rules, and Dawarat, Shalel, Wajudan, cycles of existences. Universal ether is in the blood, inside the Matao, bone. The Haya, life, is in the blood, as the Nakha'a, marrow, in the blood, that reproduces new cells, fresh blood to feed your life, body. It takes 6 to 9 weeks to replenish your Daman blood by way of the Nakha'a, marrow, inside the bone. Can you see the rest? Daman way? Sorry, just read it from here. Okay. Let's move this out of the way. What was that? Right. Replenish the blood inside the body, which the life is born, and it takes 6 to 9 months. Zazaz man is like the Daman blood that is grown inside bone that is grown inside the Raham womb. Okay. That is from Universal Natural Ether Energy. Okay. Talking about how blood is formed and what is producing it, etc. Okay. Inside the bone marrow. So, with that in mind, the question starts to now hopefully stare and for you to ask yourself that when this being, this creator in your biblical story is creating this Adam, okay, excuse me, accident, it's creating this Adam and Eve character. Luckily I'm not using it, so. Sorry, excuse me for that. Tablet just decided to drop off. Yeah, what exactly was going on regarding the creation of Adam and Eve? You know, when you're dealing with blood, because obviously it's saying here that women are like the bone marrow that replenishes the blood inside the body, which the life is born.
Well, women make milk.
Yes, women do make milk.
Good for your bones.
It is good for your bones, yes. But that is not what we're actually talking about. We know that women, females make milk. The question is we've been told, okay, throughout the religious world, in their books, that Adam was first, okay? If Adam is first, and by the teachings and by the sound right reasoning it out in your own head, okay, and teaching that the bone marrow and the female is the one that from her, she produces life, and the blood is life. How is it possible that Adam was the one that was made to create the female?
I don't understand what that stuff said about blood. Like, I do find it strange. No, I just find it like logically after something that you said.
It's not logical.
Wait, let me finish that. Yeah. That they say Adam, it just sounds strange in a way that Adam will come first. However, that creates cognitive dissonance.
Okay, explain.
Well, this is a Christian country.
Yeah.
obviously in the Bible.
That's right.
In Genesis.
But we're trying to remove the cognitive dissonance, as you're saying. We're trying to remove the confusion. You see what I'm saying? That's the whole point of why we have these classes, is so that we remove the confusion, okay, and the misconceptions of what the blood, the female, etc. is for. Okay, so this was just an introduction to let you know that from this blood creation, okay, or where the blood is coming from the female, and the female was used to actually create the male, okay, not the other way around. All right, so this is what it's alluding to in the teachings, okay, in our teachings. This is actual fact. This is something that you can go and research. Anything on this before I move on? Okay.
One last thing. Still don't get it.
You don't understand?
Yeah, no, that's it.
Okay, well, maybe when we move further on, you start to get a bit clearer. So we've explained that blood is from the ether, okay, and it's generated, all right, in the marrow of the bone. We then go on to now, well, before we go there, you probably been reading blood cell formation. So our blood cells are covered in little markers or flags called antigens. Does anyone know what antigens are?
Break it down. Sorry. Yeah.
If you can put your hand up or use the mic, okay?
The prefix, the genesis is gen, and anti obviously anti.
Okay. I think we're gonna have to just leave you out of this problem. Let me just read on. Yes. You might have A type markers, B type both or neither, yeah, which are called antigens. But those aren't the only antigen types. I asked earlier regarding blood types. Yeah, some people said they were A, and some people said they were O. Okay, and then also you have the positive and negative aspect of that, right? So the plus or negative part of blood type refers to the rhesus factor. So this was actually found in a particular what's called a macaque monkey, where they found this particular protein that was linked to a particular animal known as the rhesus monkey. And that's how they were able to identify these markers or these antigens on that particular monkey. Not saying that we came from monkeys, it's just that they found that antigen because the monkey and the ape, they have similar chromosomes structure to ours. Okay, so from that, they were able to identify this using their from their findings. They were using what you call genetic markers or genetic experiments, DNA experiments. So if you have that marker, Rh factor for short, if you have that marker, you have positive blood type. If you don't have it, you have negative blood type. So I put in there in brackets Cro-Magnon and Basque people, because these are a range of species of humans on the planet. The Basque people are still living up to today on the planet. And they have in the region of Spain and France, and still have a particular genetic markers which distinguish them from all other races. In fact, they actually don't know where the Basque people came from. That's how deep it gets. Yeah, they actually don't know the origin of the Basque people. They think they appeared around the time of Cro-Magnon and Neanderthal, but they actually don't know. They even speak a different language, etc., to any other Europeans. So I'll explain. If you have questions on that, I'll explain. But I'm going to explain further on how the Basque people form into this, and the reason why I've mentioned them. So, which antigens your body makes are determined by your DNA. There are a few different genes that affect blood type. For example, the ABO gene determines whether you have types A, B, AB, or O. Similarly, Rh genes determine whether you have positive or negative blood. Okay, so you can have A negative based on the antigen of the Rh factor, yeah, or B positive or A positive. So this actually determines and identifies what factor you have, either positive or negative. Okay. I hope everyone there is following online. If you do have any questions, please do ask, because obviously it's a topic that is a lot of people struggle. Even me studying this, it's something to get your head around, but it starts to make sense as you study and understand the Irish factor, etc., and how it plays, the significance it plays in our DNA. So here's a diagram here which shows you the bone marrow, okay? And the bone marrow, you have something called a hematopoietic stem cell, right? So these stem cells, what stem cells are, they're literally a cell that has no form of significance until they start to differentiate, and they differentiate into different forms of cells or organs in the human body, okay? And that's what stem cells do. So one of the things that stem cells actually change into or transform into is blood cells, okay? And these blood cells, you can have, obviously, from that, you have all the different types of blood that these stem cells then end up producing. So you have the cell, lymphoid, myeloid, basophil, erythrocytes, etc., okay, when you look at this diagram. But the question also should that you need to remember, the thing that you need to remember is that when I mention about the natural ether energy that's in the blood, and that from this natural ether energy, this particular energy is changing its form and structure, okay, and becoming something. So one of the things that it actually becomes, if you know about studying something called the morphogenetic field, the morphogenetic field is a field where things take shape or are formed. And from that field of energy, then pervades this realm, as it were, okay, from the energy field coming down and lowering its vibration or changing its form, it becomes these what we call stem cells. Okay, so that's another. Yes, my brother.
That manifestation or realization?
That's manifestation. That's a manifestation. Yeah. So what's happening is that it's coming from a form known as the morphic field, and that morphic field, by way of natural ether energy, okay, it changes its different degrees of it, because there's different degrees of natural ether energy. You have 9 ether all the way down to 3 ether. So depending on the etheric potency, these stem cells are grown in that soup, in that resonant soup or field, and then they manifest through the human bone marrow, okay, and they manifest through the, what's it called again? Got the name for it. The stem cell. Yeah, that's it. They manifest through the stem cell, and the stem cell then produces the bone marrow and etc., and produces these different cells, as I mentioned, these blood cells, as I mentioned, and these also antibodies, as I mentioned, which is T cells, B cells, and plasma. Okay. So again, you have a diagram here showing you the different blood types. Okay, and you can see you have O, which doesn't have any antigens on it. You have A negative. You have A negative blood, which has the A antigen, and then you have B negative, and so on and so forth. Okay, so these are your different antigens that are residing on the blood cell. Okay, check if there's any questions. Right, so moving on. Right, so the importance of blood plasma and how it links into the Yorks and Lancasters. Does anybody know who the Yorks and Lancasters are? Anyone? Anyone online know who the Yorks and Lancasters are? Okay. Not to worry, I'll go into it anyway. It's not going to be, you can go and study that in your own time. It's a very long history about the Yorks and Lancasters. So the importance of blood plasma, okay, which is something that the Yorks and Lancasters, they were a family, okay, that were basically fighting against each other. They were, you know, in battle against each other, trying to take the throne and who was going to be ruling in England. But one of the significant thing about them is that they were known, they were hemophiliacs. Okay. So one of the things that was important for these York and Lancasters is that being that they were hemophiliacs, they needed a particular element in their blood, which was found in the plasma. So one thing that plasma does is, and I read, plasma, also known as blood plasma, appears light yellowish or straw colored. It serves as the liquid base for whole blood. Whole blood minus erythrocytes, red blood cells, leukocytes, white blood cells, and thrombocytes, platelets, make up the plasma. Serum, sometimes mistakenly considered synonymous with plasma, consists of plasma without fibrinogen. So that's the key factor here, okay? Fibrinogen. Plasma contains 91% to 92% of water and 8 to 9% of solids. It mainly comprises of coagulants, mainly fibrinogen, aid in blood clotting. So if you know anything about hemophilia, okay, hemophilia is when you have an accident and you cut yourself, and because of the lack of fibrinogen in the blood plasma, you bleed, and you can potentially bleed to death. Okay, so that's one of the things that the Yorks and Lancasters were actually suffering from, hemophilia. And is even now in the royal family, they're still suffering from this particular disease. Okay. Plasma proteins such as albumin and globulin that help maintain the colloidal osmotic pressure. So that's another thing that to do with blood pressure is also to do with the proteins in your plasma that allows your blood pressure to maintain a homeostasis, which is a balanced level, okay, in your system. Electrolytes like sodium, potassium, bicarbonate, fluoride, and calcium help maintain your blood pH. Okay, and immunoglobulins help fight infection and various other small amounts of enzymes, hormones, and vitamins. I'm giving you all of these, okay, because if your mind is processing the information, you start to realize something as we go along, why these elements in your blood are so important. Okay, especially for that of the Nagaru race. The black race, African race.
Which African?
The African race. We are one race of people. We've just been given names like Senegalese, Ghanaian, Moroccan, etc. But we're actually just one race of people. Okay. All right. So, any questions so far? Any questions on Zoom at all? All right. Let's continue.
What race am I?
What race are you?
Yeah, just put me in a different race.
Okay. If you have a question, please ask. Okay. Otherwise, it will stop the class and it will stop the flow of class. All right. Okay. Can someone take the mic off the brother? Okay. So now, when the other aspect, the reason why I gave you the background or the backdrop to hemophilia, etc., is because during what they call the slave trade, okay, or which was really a kidnapping, that's one of the things that they were actually in search of, was the blood of certain race of people. And the reason being is that the Yorks and the Lancasters, they were actually, as I said, they were hemophiliacs. Now, how that ties into extraterrestrials is that extraterrestrials, they have their own seed on the planet. And by way of mental telepathy or mental instructions in their DNA, in their blood, okay, through that ether, they're able to communicate to their race. And what the invasion of Africa was that they were in search of hemoglobin. Okay, they went into Ethiopia. When they tried to go into the deeper parts of Africa, they could not survive the malaria they received from the mosquitoes. So they saw the Indians and tried to mix with them. Yet, because they were not a pure seed, their genes were not strong enough. So, as hemophiliacs, that did not help them. The Dutch went to New Guinea and Australia. That's why you see blonde hair in some of the people there. Yet, that didn't work for them either, not a pure seed. The Arabs mixed in with the African tribes in the East Coast. So you have dark-skinned people with straight hair. They were doing fine for a while, yet a reverse happened where Arabs were taking Mukasu as slaves. So their genes began to weaken again. So they had to set up a New England in America, and they sent over Puritans. Okay, so this slave trade or slavery that many people hear about, one of the main key factors is that certain race of people have been made, okay, and they've been given a, like let's just an assignment, as it were, okay, and that assignment was to reduce or control other species or other races on the planet. And they were given recessive DNA genes. And that recessive genes came out as one of the things as hemophilia or bloodborne diseases or leprosy, etc. These were the different diseases. But in order to strengthen their immune system, they required the blood plasma. Okay, and if you go back to the last slide, go back to the last slide.
Don't like white people.
Yeah, if you go back to the importance of what blood plasma is, okay, what it does is it coagulates, yeah, using a protein known as fibrinogen, which aids in blood clotting. Yeah, so keep those things in mind as to the reason why we were kidnapped. Yeah, it wasn't just because they want to put us on plantations and get us to cut sugarcane or pick cotton or any other aspect of what the slavery or kidnapping did to us. Okay, so right. So it has nothing to do with religion. These people are pure blue and red blood. Okay. The Lancasters and the Yorks, who had their own war going on because of their bad blood. So they saw the native Indians there, and being part Asian, they mixed in with them, gave them diseases, and they died. So they realized again they needed pure black blood for the hemoglobin. So they went to the Ivory Coast, and that didn't work because they went to Nigeria, who rebelled, and that produced those called the Maroons, who they were not able to control. They were running out of time and created blood banks here in America. They tried to obtain blood from the mulattoes. That still didn't work. They realized the blood they needed was from the blacks who were poor. So they offered $5 if you give blood. Does anyone know about that at all? That they were offering, paying you for blood? That's where the black banks. I mean, if you go to certain places in America, they still even do it now. You know, you go in and then you get paid. You know, so one of the people that has one of the purest blood. Do you know what that is? Alcoholics, because the alcohol purifies your blood. So they're well aware of certain people on the planet or certain races on the planet. You have a question?
No.
Okay. Certain persons on the planet who have a particular type of blood. Okay. And as I was saying earlier before, or showing you earlier before, the different types of blood, you have A negative, B negative, etc., based on the antigens that is found and which was identified by way of the rhesus monkey. So one aspect is that when you're looking at these blood groups, those blood groups belong to a certain specific race of people. You can find predominantly negative blood or A negative, B negative, etc. in Mukasu or Caucasian race or the Asian race, and you can find mostly positive blood, A positive, B positive, etc., in the Nagaru or darker skinned people. Okay, but through time and age, there's been so much mixing now, it's very hard to determine who's who, unless you go into the DNA and the blood. Okay. And who is on the $5 bill? Abraham Lincoln, known for the freeing of blacks and slaves, and a penny, which is a copper color. So this was an orchestrated plan. It was a plan, as I said, initiated in the minds of the Mukasu or the Caucasian race by way of their creators.
I'm not sure how to phrase it though.
Yeah, it's okay.
So if essentially we're saying that they needed African blood to strengthen their immune system, but negative blood types are more commonly found in Caucasians. How does that
I think I know what you're gonna ask. Okay.
How does that relate?
Remember, it's the plasma in the blood. So when they say they're looking for the blood, they're seeking the blood, is the plasma, because in the plasma you have 5 distinct types of immunoglobulins. Okay, you have immunoglobulin A, you have immunoglobulin B, C, etc. Just what I'm saying. So it was more for the immunoglobulin and the fibrinogen that's in the plasma. So based on the fact that they do have A negative and B negative, they can still transfuse it and they can still receive the blood plasma. Because even now, when you go to hospitals, what they do, they actually separate it. They separate the plasma and remove the blood. So it's more essentially the blood, because in there has the antibodies. You see what I'm saying? So it's more for that specific purpose.
Are you saying negative blood types have the antibodies?
The negative blood types have antibody, and so do the positive blood types have the antibodies. Okay, you see what I'm saying? But it's just that we have a higher ratio in our blood of antibodies. You see what I'm saying? And when I talked about the natural ether energy, the natural ether energy at the beginning is that we have the most potency. You see what I'm saying? And it's the potency and the energy that it was required to keep the cell alive. Do you understand? So because of that reason, it allowed them to have a longevity in life. Being that you may have been hemophiliac, or you might have a child that might have been rhesus. Do you see what I'm saying? You know, when the blood attacks the blood, etc. Being of that, because of the plasma and the potency of the natural ether energy in our Nagaru DNA, okay, it was able to give them longevity. You see what I'm saying? Not for a determined period of time, you know. So it helped them. Do you understand?
Yeah. I was just thinking about
how the A and the B.
If you're O negative,
okay,
you can kind of give
universal.
Yeah,
exactly. But it's not as potent. Do you see what I'm saying? Because you can have O negative as European or other, you know, Asian, and you can have O positive as a Nagaru or African. Do you see what I'm saying? Oh gosh. Can I be heard on Clubhouse still? Just say yes, no, somebody come up on stage or something. We apologize, but we are having technicals with Clubhouse. All right, we'll keep trying with Clubhouse. So anyone who can put a message on there that I can be heard, then please say so. Right. So where were we? Right. Moving on. You've just joined us for class. Just to give you a quick recall. Is you've joined the class entitled Bloodline of the Deity or the Gods. Okay. Human sacrifice and DNA. Okay, well, it's not in that order, but essentially we're going to be learning about how the blood types and what blood types these extraterrestrials have been using on the planet Okay, if you weren't aware, that's how our blood types came about, by way of extraterrestrials. Okay, and so you have certain families, and the ones of these are known as the, oh, okay, we need to move that out of the way. Sorry, excuse me. Bear with me a second. I didn't realize that was the screen. Why is it showing me? Where is that be? Oh, it's over here. Can we close this down? Yeah, that's all. Right, so just for your, to add to it, right, where does RH originate? Okay, the short answer is that RH factor is very, very old. Like I mentioned earlier, RH factor is short for rhesus factor. This actually refers to how scientists first discovered RH in rhesus macaque monkeys. Other primates have similar RH molecules to us, and if you go even further back in evolutionary history, you can find similar genes in bacteria. And we'll touch on bacteria as well, and how there's a particular 223 genes that have somehow found their way as a bacterium into the human DNA, okay? And how that came about. Humans have two different RH genes, RHD and RHCE. Together, these genes provide the instructions to make RH factor. And there can be a lot of differences in these genes that affect your blood in minor ways. There are a lot more than just two versions, which is why, one reason why RH blood type tests are sometimes inaccurate. Okay, more on RH. And how is it that I put the biological killer weapon? Because believe it or not, as you can see, you have the, just giving you some more diagrams just to get around your head how the RH factor is. The one which is negative has no RH factor, and the one that's positive has the antigens on the antigen. Oh, bless you. Yes, sister. Oh,
Bless you.
no, bless you. Sorry, excuse me. What's happening? Let me show that again. Ah, okay. Thank you. Sorry about that. I didn't realize. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay, it's like people, I'm talking, no one's saying it. Leaving you all confused. Okay, so you have these spikes on the RH blood group, as you can see, on the top one here. And that's your antigens, okay, that will identify which RH group it is. So you have the negative that has no antigens on it, and then you have the one on the left, which has the positive. Yeah, the RH factor, again, another example just here at the bottom. RH factor for rhesus factor is a type of protein on the outside of your red blood cells, okay? Right. So on the other side, you see here, it says the biological killer weapon. So if you look at the diagram and follow it, and I'm going to try and explain it the best I can if you get stuck, because trust me, I had to get my head around it as well. So you have an RH positive father, okay, and RH negative mother. RH negative mother with RH positive baby, okay. RH positive baby's blood cells enter mother's bloodstream. Yeah, you following so far? Is that making sense? Okay. What is happening is invading RH positive blood cells cause the production of RH antibodies. Okay, we know where the antibodies are found, don't we? Because we mentioned that earlier. So the antibodies in your blood are found in the plasma. Okay, right? So within your plasma, you have various different things going on, proteins going on, and other things. We have the most abundance as Dagaru or people of African descent. Yeah, we have it in our bloodstream, the most abundant. That's why even when you look in, when COVID hit, yeah, when they showed Africa and they showed the rest of the world, they showed Africa had the least amount of COVID diseases, or what's it called, contractions. Most of it was in Europe and America, etc. That's because we, in our ancestry DNA, we have a higher percentage of plasma, okay, which is more potent and has more antibodies, yeah, which is goes back to what I was explaining earlier regarding something called natural ether energy. Because we have this etheric energy in us as descendants of the original African people, our DNA is stronger in that sense. So they had certain cultures, certain species of other races who needed these particular essence of us in order to strengthen their DNA, to strengthen their genes so that they don't get sick. Okay. So if you ever heard of hemophilia, for instance, yeah, where the royal family are known for this. You know, you go to search research the royal family, you find that they were hemophiliacs. And the hemophiliacs mean that if you were to have a cut or you bang your elbow or something, you had an internal bleed, because of the something called lacking blood clotting factor, they could potentially, or anybody who's got it can potentially bleed to death. You with me? So this is something that was prevalent in a particular group of families. And one of the families are the royal family and other families in Europe. Okay. So this particular Rh disease or Rh negative is found in the A negative and the B negative and the C negatives, so no C, O negatives are found mostly in European countries or people of European descent. Then you have A positive, B positive, etc., which are found in more darker skinned people in their descendancy. Just yeah. So does that make sense? Right. So what's happening with the Rh factor is that the reason why I put here the biological killer weapon is because this was actually used by extraterrestrials. This was actually a genetic experiment that was put into a particular race of or subspecies of Europeans known as the Basque people. Yeah, and the Basque people are known in the regions of France and Spain. They don't have a language like any other. They basically don't know, can't trace anything about their origin. They don't know their origin. They said that they just appeared around 100,000 years ago during the dawn of the Neanderthal and the Cro-Magnon. Well, what the master teachers taught us is that the Basque people were actually used as biological weapon to wipe out the Cro-Magnon. Yeah, so the way they did that was they used the Rh factor, the rhesus factor, which when as it shows you here, the invading Rh positive blood cells causes the reproduction of Rh antibodies. So when a Rh positive father, i.e. a Neanderthal or Cro-Magnon, etc., was to mix with these people, these created genetically weaponized species, subspecies of Caucasian, what would happen is that it would actually kill and wipe them out because that's what they were doing. Right? So does that make sense? Yeah. Right. So as I was mentioning to my brother earlier, you have 223 unknown genes from extraterrestrials, which they can't quantify or know where it came from. Like scientists are actually confused. You can go research this website here, okay, and it goes into more detail about how this particular gene came from a bacteria that somehow made it set its way into the human genome. All right. Again, extraterrestrials are responsible for this because what they've been able to do is the three types of mechanisms that they've used in order to actually move extraterrestrial genes into human DNA so that they'll be able to actually make a replica of themselves, have intercourse. So when you go into your biblical stories now, and it talks about man, and God said, let us make man in our image and after our likeness. The reason being is that they had perfected the formula or found out the formula in order to actually allow the human and the extraterrestrial genes to be able to actually, what's the word? So look at cohabit with each other. Is that the right word? Cohabit? Yeah. So they will actually be able to accept each other. Yeah. And then from that, they were able to give birth. So this was something that was done because of the 223 unknown genes that they put into a bacteria. And what they were able to do, they put the bacteria into the mitochondria DNA. Yeah. And who knows about mitochondria DNA here? Does anyone know about mitochondria DNA? Yeah. Okay.
Is it the powerhouse of the cell?
That's right. It's the powerhouse of the cell. So do you know what type of cell? Is it like, do you know whether it's a circular cell or octagonal or anything? Do you know?
Circles.
Right. So the reason why it was able to be used is because it could be concealed in a circular cell. And extraterrestrials knew that because the mitochondria, as the brother said, is a powerhouse of the cell, when you go and research what mitochondria actually does, is actually able to communicate, because it's an extra gene outside of the nucleus of the cell, it has the ability to communicate with the cell and give it instructions. You with me? To actually write genetic programs. That's what the mitochondrial DNA is for. So they were able to actually insert the bacterium, these 223 unknown genes, into the bacterium, and then it was able to actually self-replicate by itself. And when it started to self-replicate, with enough of the genes being able to, DNA being able to self-replicate, then they knew that they could actually make a humanoid being, you know, or have the ability to procreate. So your whole story of Genesis, where it talks about let us make man in our image and after our likeness, and then it talks about Eve being able to conceive, and then she had Cain and Abel. These are actually a genetic experiment that was taking place thousands and thousands of years ago, and there's multiple intersections along the way. So some was done by the Nagaru overseers, known as the Natharu, the Riskians, etc., or the beings from Orion. And then there's others that was done by the Pleiadians and the Arcturians, who are known as the Anunnaki. Okay, so they had different times of stages where they were intercepting, taking the humanoid and then putting them under sleep. This is your whole biblical story, but when you should read it with a scientific mind, you start to see that there's actually a genetic experiment that was going on. So Adam being put into a deep sleep is that they actually were able to go into the bone marrow, yeah, and then extract the necessary DNA, place it into Eve. That's why they say Eve, they say Adam said that Eve is of my blood or of my seed, because they actually used the bone marrow from Adam. Does that make sense? Okay. So as I said, there's three mechanisms. One of them was transformation, in which extracellular DNA is taken up by a recipient bacteria. There's a second mechanism called conjugation, in which genetic material is transferred from one bacterium to another by cell-to-cell contact. So that's the one that was used for the making of the Adamites, okay? And then you have the last one, the third one, transduction, in which the transfer of genetic information between bacteria is mediated by bacteriophages. Studies on these three mechanisms of gene transfer in natural environments are briefly discussed. So you can do a quick snap if you want. Let me move this out of the way. If anyone wants to go and do further research, you have this website.
Nadum Zamar, when you get a minute, you have some questions in the chat, yeah?
All right, Tower Attack. All right. Right, we're gonna pause there and probably goes to questions. I'm gonna go to our questions, so just bear with me. Are the Etruscans related to the Basque people? I am not familiar with that. I'm not too sure of that. What has been taught to us by way of Partner Babia Nun, this is from Derek, is that, okay, you can't see the question, that they were created as a biological weapon, okay, to wipe out the Cro-Magnon. So that's from what has been taught. I'm not too sure whether they're part related to the Etruscans. The next question is, do stem cells have enough genetic memory to create any type of cell? Yes, they do, because stem cells are coming from the morphogenetic field. Okay, and the morphogenetic field is linked to the multiverses, as it were. It's coming from the etheric realm, and from that, certain things will then, as it says, morph into shape. So they take on, that's what they call differentiating. They differentiate into any specific, whatever you need, organ, lung, limb, etc. You can actually grow something from the actual stem cell, yeah, based on the morphogenetic field. So they do have memory. There are many cities named York and Lancaster. That's correct, they are. That's because just like how you have New England, it was them leaving here and going to the different places and colonizing it and calling it New England. You know, so this what they did. They went to certain places, Yorks and Lancasters, etc., and colonized it and renamed it. Like for instance, you got Georgia in America, that's named after King George. Yeah, so you got places that Europeans or other empires went to, and when they landed there, they renamed it, as it were. Okay. I hope you can hear my audio on Zoom, on Clubhouse and Zoom. There's people still online, so I'm assuming. Oh, okay, wonderful. Right. And let's see if there's any more. Okay, wonderful. That's all the questions. I'll move on to our next slide.
We've got some questions on the Clubhouse in the comment section.
Clubhouse, yeah, okay.
This is from Haratat to Anaktat. Why is it important? Why is it important when you meet your partner to know their blood type?
Good question, very, very good question. And purely from what I was explaining earlier and from what the books teach us is that from Partner Babia has always taught us, is called eugenics. Okay, so knowing this and studying your partner and their blood type will allow you to make a better informed decision as to when you're going to conceive and have children. So if you know that, for instance, you know, we were talking about the killer weapon, for instance, the Rh factor or the Rh rhesus factor, is that if you don't have the right immunoglobulin to help counteract the child being born, or where the cells in the child's body starts to die and suffocate of oxygen, because that's what that's what the rhesus factor does. It actually suffers this, kills the oxygen in the cells, and the baby dies. Okay, so if you don't know these things, if you don't know the origin of your partner and their blood type, and you don't know about what potentially you can pass on as a disease to your unborn child or to even to yourself, then it's a detriment to your own survival and your children and your great-grandchildren, because you're either passing on recessive genes or you're passing on progressive or strong genes. So it's entirely very, very important that we should know each other, our blood types, and prior to conceiving a child, know what you're getting yourself into, because it's not just about, you know, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, and then we have a child and then the child is suffering and you don't know why the child is suffering, but it's purely because you didn't know and understand, you know, blood types, okay, or blood diseases. So it's very important to know. I hope that answers your question.
Also, just to further on that, so is this the reason why there's a lot of IVF amongst the carcass because of this. Is one of the reasons.
That is definitely one of the reasons, because being that they don't have certain factors in their DNA doesn't allow them to produce offspring at the rate that we do. And again, going back to, again, the plasma, okay, the plasma plays a very, very pivotal role in being able to conceive a child because of the necessary proteins. I mean, DNA obviously has a part to play, but conceiving a child also deals with the mitochondria, the energy of the powers of the cell, and how this is able to then give the right instructions to be able to conceive a child, a whole complete child, you see what I'm saying, without any birth issues or complications. So it's very, very important to know blood type, very, very important to know, you know, if you are going to have IVF, also what, you know, you're actually, how can I say, intaking in the form of sperm, DNA, etc., which, because you find the actual gene of blood in the DNA of the actual parent. And there's if we go back to one of the slides, the previous slide, if I can go back to it. Previous slide. Yeah, if you see here, you see that? Yeah, so it says plasma, also known as blood plasma, appears light yellowish, but the main important part I'm looking at here, where it says it comprises of coagulants, mainly fibrinogen, which aids in blood clotting. So that's very important, especially, you know, if you're going to be conceiving a child and, you know, you want your child to be healthy. Plasma proteins such as albumin and globulin that help maintain the colloidal osmotic pressure, okay, which is 25 millimeters. I think that's talking about silver Hg and something like that. I can't remember the full breakdown. So electrolytes like sodium, potassium, bicarbonate, chloride, and calcium help maintain blood pH. Immunoglobulins, very important here, because number 4 is very important, especially if you're having IVF treatment, because within the blood plasma, these immunoglobulins help fight infection and various other small amounts of enzymes, hormones, and vitamins. Okay, so yeah, it's you have to take into consideration, and this is one of the things that is not really taught in any field, really, about when you're deciding to have a child, because we all done it. We know we all have children, and we don't think about the consequences of our actions or what we're getting ourselves into and what we could be potentially passing on, you know. So it's very, very important. And then the other aspect is here. Okay, so you have okay, so read again here. The life is in the blood, yeah, as the nakha'a, marrow in the bone that reproduces new fresh blood to feed your life body, okay? It takes 6 to 9 weeks to replenish your demand blood by way of marrow, the marrow inside the bone. So the main part here, aspect here, is that natural ether energy is in the blood, inside the matao bone. So it's in your best interest to understand the science of blood and understand that you're not just having just a components of, you know, hemoglobin, and iron, etc., which makes your blood the color it is. You with me? Or that, when you have a blood transfusion or when you cut yourself and you bleed, etc., you have to understand that there's actually much more other things going on in the energy realm, which keeps you alive, which keeps the cells alive, which keeps all of these things that you take for granted, alive. And it's because in your blood, you have this particular thing known as ether. Yeah, ether energy. And that's what produces new fresh blood to feed your life body. Yeah, so if you keep that in mind, and when, for instance, a female is conceiving a child by way of IVF, no doctor is going to be telling them this because they don't really understand the science. They don't understand the science that you're getting this energy from natural nature. Natural nature is giving you this. Natural nature is feeding and cleansing your body. So understanding on that level. Okay. I hope that helps with that question or adding to what you stated, Zamal. Let's see if there's any other questions on here.
Just to add a bit more to that also. So, if you go to Genesis chapter 2, if you read from verse 21 to 22, it says this.
Can you hear the brother? Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Zama.
It says, you said that every 6 to 9 weeks, the blood replenishes by the marrow. If you read Genesis 2, 21 to 22, it reads, and the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept, and he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof. 22. And the rib which the Lord God had taken from man made he a woman and brought her unto the man. So is this then in reference to like a blood transference from the marrow?
That's precisely exactly. That's exactly what's going on in there. But I was explaining earlier regarding that. Instead of looking at it as a fanciful story, a story that sounds nice, looking at from the medical point of view or a scientific point of view, you see a whole different picture. You see a whole different scenario that's taking place. It was a genetic experiment that was happening here. So yeah, tell Zamal for that. Yeah, most definitely.
So then they're looking at so now going back to that question which was asked about why is it important when you meet your partner to know their blood type. This was then an experiment to see if there was compatibility.
Compatibility, exactly. That's the word I was looking for. Tell exactly. There was compatibility. Yep, exactly. Yeah. Does anyone have questions on that at all? Any statements? Any comments? Tell Zamal for your input. Appreciate that. Okay. So moving on now here, because the other title of our thing is regarding blood sacrifices. Okay, so we know now that extraterrestrials, okay, gave certain blood types or produced certain blood types. Blood types come from these extraterrestrials. And one of the things that certain beings or extraterrestrial advanced beings, doctors, whatever you want to call them, do you know what I mean? One of the things that they have orchestrated on this planet is that they've created groups and subgroups and families, okay, for a particular purpose. And one of them is these subgroups that has been created. These organizations are known as the KKK, okay? So the KKK, as a hate group, for particular reasons that they adhere to. And one of the things that these extraterrestrials from Pleiades, that's one of the organizations that they mentally influence. So they were influenced and inspired to get blood sacrifices. And that's why they did what they did in the as you know, during the decline of slavery. Okay. They created the KKK. You have a question? Did you have a question? No. Oh, okay. Yeah, so they created and then the people up north said you can't do that to blacks. So if you know about the whole slavery aspect with Abraham Lincoln, etc., he was going to free the slaves, and from freeing the slaves in the north, sorry, in the south, yeah. Yeah.
Did you say that they were influenced by the
Pleiadians? Yeah.
Were they related to them?
Right. So when you have these families, the whole reason for the bloodlines, it goes back so far. I mean, it will cover another class altogether. But essentially, these families, also these extraterrestrials, created certain families that they work through. Yeah, they work through these families. So one of the families that they work through are your Lancasters and your Yorks. They work through families like the Bilderbergers and the Rockefellers. You see what I'm saying? If you heard of these names.
So yeah? If we had a pyramid or a hierarchy, we're saying the KKK are at the bottom.
Yeah.
So like they're the muscle behind it, so to
speak. Yep, that's the way of putting it.
Above that are the Rothschild.
Yeah, the minds behind it.
Yeah, and then above that are the
extraterrestrials. Exactly, that's right. That's precisely right. So what they were doing is that they were mentally controlling them. I know it sounds far-fetched, it sounds crazy, but if understanding why we have their blood DNA or extraterrestrial DNA is because extraterrestrials communicate to their children through their blood, their DNA, their genes. And so communicating through their genes, certain extraterrestrials, okay, required blood sacrifices because they knew that within the blood, that's where your spirit is. That's where the potency and the energy is. And certain beings live off the energy from blood. So the whole Genesis story of Enos, who was a mortal, not connected. And at this point, man began to call on the name of the Lord. Who is the Lord here? It's the same God mentioned in Exodus, known as El Shaddai, or the Almighty, or Al Shad for short. Why would a God have the same name as a demon? Because the word Shad or Shaddai means my demon. Okay, when God, don't believe us. Everything what we're saying here, you can look up the word Shad, and Shad means demon. Okay, so this demonic creature or these demonic beings, or what we call demonic, because for them it's not demonic, it's what they do. They live by way of blood, and they were orchestrating certain children of their species on this planet to actually wipe out and kill for them, because the spirit then will leave the body and they will feed off it as energy. Yeah, does that make sense? Okay, I'm glad it is. Glad it is. Yes, my brother.
So how did the vampire and Dracula, how did they...
This is your story. This is the original story of your Dracula, and because what men were doing at that time, or how can I say, people that were guided to give blood sacrifices, the stories that came from them became your Dracula story.
So does that ties in with Abraham Lincoln, the vampire?
Precisely. That's why I gave Abraham as one of the examples, you know what I mean, freeding the slaves, because he was going around and the Pleiadians didn't, you know what I mean, weren't actually appreciating what he was doing. Yeah. So yeah, you have Al-Shad for short, and mentioned that already. So in Egypt, okay, this particular being or beings would be known as Shezmu or Shazum. That is a devourer of blood. Yeah, so Anyone heard of the movie Shazam? Yeah. So Shazam, if you look at the name of Shazam and you look at the word Shazmu and Shazam is the word that they will use or an incantation, which I'm saying, for him to turn into a powerful, like strong character. Am I wrong? Yeah, that's how the movie goes, right? But it's actually an incantation for these beings. This is actually a name of a particular deity in ancient Egypt who was the devourer, known as the devourer of blood, because it all goes back to blood sacrifices. Yeah. Now for the Quran, you have Suratu Al-Qatar, chapter of abundance. Verse 2 says, Fasuli li Rabika wa anhar, and pray to your Lord and sacrifice. This is again more proof of serving a bloodlust God. What about the Eid al-Adha, the feast of the sacrifice? Muslims, again, cutting up goats and other, thing and bloodletting. And even when they say halal, where they first, cut the goat's neck and let it bleed out, etc. This is all subtle forms of rituals and blood sacrifices because they knew that the spirit was in the blood. Or should I say extraterrestrials knew that yes.
My question is, what is the difference between human sacrifice and animal sacrifice in terms of what they gain from them?
Pretty much nothing really, because put into this context, if you're a farmer, and you have cows and goats and sheep, right? What are you breeding them for as a farmer? What do you breed a cow for? to kill it. To kill it, yeah, and sell it on. Do you know what I'm saying? Same principle applies with these extraterrestrials. Earth is a farm for some extraterrestrials. And they come here to feed the same way we go, or not us, but a farm will go into the abattoir, stun the cow, yeah, cut it into different pieces. And some people like the what they call it, the rump steak, innit? Some people like the rump, the derriere. Some people like the cow hoof, you know what I'm saying? And they make track from that. Some people like the cow tail, yeah? So there's different extraterrestrials that like different parts of animals or different parts of humans.
It's like if you watch the movie called War of the Worlds, it's like this scenario, like a end of the world type of scenario where humans just kind of drop dead, right?
Right.
And then extraterrestrials come out, and it looks like almost like feasting, like a buffet or something.
That's right. That's exactly what's going on. This is where they say in Revelations, the rapture. But what the masters get, if you look at phonetically, when you're saying rapture, you're saying raptor. Yeah. So raptor, what's a raptor? It's a reptile. Seeing a creature that voraciously eats blood meat. And this is what the masters explain to that there's something called food of the gods doctrine, which has been teaching that by way of these bloodlines, all the way to Abraham, when he sacrificed his son Isaac, or was about to, just I'm saying, all the way down to when he met them in the tent, and then they cooked blood meat for him, all the way down to Jesus when he's talking about, you are my blood, feed my flock. Yeah, these are symbolic terminologies for saying you are food. Humans are food, and the harvest is ready. And that's what these beings have been doing. So they create your whole Bible story, yeah, as a way to symbolically make people feel like it's a fantastic God character that loves them, and no, you're food, yeah, for a particular species. Okay.
Hold on, one second.
Yeah.
Did that go on to say that why black people like barbecues?
Yeah, I mean that's part of why we like barbecues, because we've managed to be convinced that all these things that we take for granted, do you know what I mean? Putting on a steak and barbecuing it, etc. All going back to these extraterrestrials and what they did and what Cain and Abel did, you know what I mean, to appease their God, you know? It all goes back to that. So,
Rahul Jamal, you have a question on Zoom in the chat.
Okay, right, let's jump
What do you mean by Genesis 4:26? Enos was first mortal, not connected.
Okay, right. So originally, you had the gods of this planet, okay, or supreme being, you know, different deities on this being who were not, so who are in direct contact with these extraterrestrials. So, for instance, Adam and Eve were in direct contact. They spoke with God, and you know what I mean, and they spoke with the angels, etc. That's according to their Bible story. Yeah. So in biblical times, these beings were coming back and forth and communicating with man. Then it came to the point where in Genesis 4:26. So when you're looking at the word Enos, you're looking at the word Nas. Yeah. And the word Nas, the root of the word Nas means forgetful or mortal being. So he was the first mortal who lost his connection with these extraterrestrials. And that's at that point that man began to call on the name of the Lord. Yeah, so that's at that point, the word Enos is talking about when these forgetful beings, the reason why they forgot is because, again, extraterrestrials with their interceptions went into the DNA of the Adamites and literally removed an element, that a gland called the barothry gland. I don't know if we've mentioned that before. We've heard of that term before in class. Yeah, but the barothry gland was allowed you access to higher parts of your spiritual psychic abilities. Yeah, so the clairvoyance, telepathy, psychometry, intuition was those other abilities and qualities that you have, but it was maimed or disconnected from these Adamites because they were made for a specific reason, which was to be laborers and food. Okay. Now, how we got into the food chain, as it were, is because of the mixing in. And the mixing in means that now, because we've inherited the blood types, okay, these blood DNA, what happens is that you then, your DNA, because it's not a static, your genes are not static. You know what I mean? Once you have genetics, doesn't mean that that's what you're determined to become. What happens is that your genes have the ability to actually rewrite themselves. So by way of this blood DNA going into other species or other races on the planet, your DNA gets rewritten, yeah, and gets retranscribed. So now you have the genetic markers like those of the Adamites, and you become now on the radar to become food for the gods. You also now become a harvest and a blood sacrifice for these deities, because now you're doing things just like other races are doing, where we're killing each other, you know, over what? You know, over stupidness. Yeah, and all of this is not because of there's a turf war or anything like that going on. It's because beings who are much more advanced in technology, much more advanced in knowledge about humans and DNA and energy, etc. They're more advanced than us. So they have been able to manipulate, you know, the human populace to the point where we're doing it freely now, you know? So that's what this is about, okay? Yes, my brother.
The Dove gene.
The Dove gene.
Yeah, dealing with the actual gene chromosomes. Mixing in. And also doing with epigenetics, transference of molecules.
Yeah, what did you want to know? Was that a question?
It ties into it.
Oh, right, yeah. It ties into the Dove gene. For those who don't know the DUF gene, let's just bring it up so I'm familiar with that. Just bring it up. Right. Well, I'm trying to find it. I didn't cover this in the class, but just to get a quick. Where can you find it? You can find it in what book is it? Yeah, if you can find it, because it's a lot to take in, that one. Okay, while the brother's looking for that, are there any questions so far? We're almost close to finishing the slides anyway, so.
What's the name of that gene?
DUF, the DUF gene.
That's an abbreviation.
Yeah, it's an abbreviation for something, yeah. I can't remember, I haven't covered that in a while. So where are we? Where's my slideshow? All right, someone, Amon Sen Hotep Rahubat, you have something to add? You have a question? Unmute your mic and please speak.
Rahubat, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead, my brother.
Baba had said in one of the
Sorry, say that again?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, say that again.
Right, so I said I have a question. Baba had said one of the updates about us being crystals.
Okay.
Yo, me no stop.
So hold on.
Football shop.
Can you mute your mic? Man. Whoever's got their mic open.
Asafo, see football socks. Because the president said we go football.
Can you please please mute your mic. Okay. Sorry, my brother. Could you please ask the question? Ask the question again. We are crystals.
Sure. So he explained.
Hello. Okay, seems I lost the brother. Yeah, I can. Yeah, you can be heard now.
Okay, yeah. So on one of the updates, Baba was talking about us being crystals. He was talking about the travel that we have to take on the Inuit, and he was talking about the different things that we have to do to prepare ourselves to get back in that natural state. So can you just expound upon that as far as us being crystals?
It's been a while since I read that. I'll be honest with you, Zamal. If there's another brother in the class, student teacher, they might be able to elaborate more on that. But essentially, you know that our body is a crystal, right? You're familiar with that, yeah?
I'm familiar with it, but I want to get a little more clarity and understanding because I kind of tie it back into like the lesser mystery schools.
Oh, right.
It's about the will and so.
Okay. There are different crystals. So you have the crystal that the master is referring to as us being crystals is that we have a resonating frequency. Okay. So as you know, your bones are cartilage, but that cartilage are actually crystallized form of or should I say are a form of crystallized material. Okay, that's what cartilage is. So what the master is teaching us through the science of tones is that when we're chanting and when we're speaking our language, okay, it is activating those crystals to actually get them to resonate at a frequency which links into the morphogenetic field. And that morphogenetic field links into the universe, the multiverse, etc. That way you can have a direct link with your ancestors. So you actually are a crystallized being. yeah, and your whole workings of your body is to get to a point where you start to resonate on the same vibrational frequency as your ancestors. And then by way of that, when it's time for you to be able to make that transformation, you can be transformed and taken as a form of energy with the right information that's encoded in your crystal, which can then be reanimated or recalibrated in other dimensions. Does that make sense?
Sure. That's very interesting. As you was actually bringing more clarity, I was thinking about when people when they get when they get what is it when they transition
I mean, where are all these bodies?
Where are all these bodies?
Extraterrestrials.
In
what they use is cloud cover. They're making fog or small, weather changes, etc. And then they'll come in and unearth and take these bodies for their food. So this is all part of the sacrifice that's taking place. Okay. Right. Just gonna wrap it up because it's you're gonna wrap it up. So yeah, of course. They do want your very okay. Salket Rahubat, you have a question? Salket? Greetings, my sister. Do you have a question? All right. So this is from Rahubat. Okay, Zamaltat, Rahubat.
Pick it up earlier.
Oh, okay, that's okay.
But I had wanted to just share with the class to watch, if you have Netflix, watch this series called Three Body Problem. It's really interesting.
Okay, three body problem.
Three Body Problem.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Did you want to hear that? Everyone hear that?
It has to do with I guess interdimensional travel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
I thought
okay.
It was really interesting.
Yeah, that's
what I had wanted to share with the class before you leave is it seems to me, just from observation, just a lot of American Black people coming down with cancer. And I just don't remember that being a thing that Black people had. Like we've always had high blood pressure and maybe diabetes, but not the cancer, you know?
Well, is
that something that you see over there in the UK as well?
Oh yeah, most definitely. And this is all because of the mixing of blood. This is what we were talking about. Is like the blood mixing. Okay, not fully understanding. And the question was asked about even when you're going to have children under IVF, etc. All this blood mixing is that we're passing or we're exchanging recessive genes or genes that might trigger a mutation, you with me, in the actual person, because what we're not realizing and what the master teacher has been explaining to us is that we have this morphogenetic field, and that morphogenetic field, if it becomes contaminated with other people's energies or other people's fields. So imagine you have an energy field that another essence, as it were, creeps in slowly and starts to invade or pervade that energy field. And when that starts to happen, if the morphogenetic field that individual has or that race has is weaker or weakened, then we as a race, not just that individual, but we as a race are then left susceptible to bloodborne diseases, to cancers, to mutations, etc. And the same goes vice versa, but however, in saying that, because our potency in the form of natural ether energy has diminished in most of us nowadays, because we're not eating the right foods, etc. You know, we're not, you know, eating, doing the right breathing exercises, all of these other things which will actually stoke the fire, as it were, and make the natural ether energy stronger in us. Because it's so diminished, is allowing our morphogenetic field to be infected, which then also infects the race, which then also infects the individual. So it's very, very important to know these different sciences of the energy realm, the physical realm, and the mental realm, and how it impacts on you as an individual and as a race. You know, so yeah, it's very, very interesting that you said that, because yeah, a lot of us are beginning to die out or catch these, you know, cancerous maladies and malignant tumors and things like that. And obviously, it's also to do with diet, but then the diet is linked to the morphogenetic field and is linked to your DNA, you know. And as we were explaining earlier, when you have the plasma gets weaker and weaker, you know. So what you're effectively doing is you're killing the antibodies that are in your plasma, which actually is required to keep you in a healthy state, you know. And natural ether energy is the producer of that, you know. So yeah, it's very, very important to know these sciences, all right? And that's one of the things why Partner Babianun is here in this day and time, because he's not just teaching you a one-level doctrine. You with me? It has multiple different layers, and within those layers, you're able to then understand your being, your inner being and your outer being, and you're able to understand how different races and mixing in of genes, etc., can impact on a race of people or impact on you mentally, physically, and emotionally. Okay, so just before we continue, let me just put it out there that you can get all this information from nashat.co.uk. You know, seek out the actual facts, natural ether energy, some of the books that the master has written regarding where I've got most of this information from. Pata Kro, The Decision, The Bridge to Salvation. Here's another one here. You have Good and Evil. Okay, many books. But it's not just about just reading the books. Do your diligent studies. Study them. Go and research everything that the master has put here. I did for this presentation. I tried to research and grasp it into my own mental, so I could be able to then convey it the best I could. You know. So just to cap it off, they do want your very Ba'a souls to offer to their goat man, Pan, Baphomet, goat of Mendes, Satir. That is their true God, Satan, Shaitan, the son of their God, the Muldad, father by whichever Ranan name. Way. They feel both Mulbanu Zazazu white men and Mulbanu Zazaz Tatu white women. If they can offer you to their Mukmeu alien deities, they may get another chance. Yet, you have to welcome them into your Hayat life. What is your life? What did I say at the beginning? What is your life? Your blood. Yeah, the life is in the blood. So that's how they have to get to you. They have to get into your blood. Yeah. The way Dracula can't enter a Mukhlan home until welcomed. So some of them will pretend and act as if they understand you and will pretend to care. It's all an act because they come to the Hasad harvest of their Tapao world. Truth is truth. No faith or faith can replace fact and truth. Okay, and that concludes my short presentation. And there's a question coming through, so go ahead.
You know, there is a thing going on in America, where they open the borders, letting people in.
So 1 second, we have a question in the chat, and then after you there'll be class, so you can ask your question. Right, go ahead, Zuma.
Yes, as I was saying, America, they're opening the borders and letting people in free, coming free.
Oh yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
Something struck my mind where I think they're doing that to offer those people to their gods so they don't believe in. That's all I see in my mind's eye.
You're 100% correct. You're 100% correct, because most of the so-called Latino countries that they call themselves, are sub-races. But they have, you see all these Ancestry.com and those places, okay? These are set up by extraterrestrials. And they're doing that because they're looking for certain specific blood types. And the blood type they're looking for is the negative blood types. You understand? So these sub-races, these hybrids of Mukasu or Nagaru, they are going to be used as part of that fodder, as food of the gods as well. So the whole thing is that, well, if we're going to be menu, then we also have something to offer you as well. You know what I'm saying? As a side dish. Yeah. So yeah, you're 100% right. It is part of the harvest, but these hybrids don't know that. In fact, hold on, let me go to the harvest, and what you just said, I'm pretty much sure in the harvest. Okay. So we start from verse 89. No, actually, verse 83. Actually, it's a bit of a long read, but. So our Salah race joined on to them, converted to the Za'am religion of the Bible and Quran, and lusted after light-skinned Nagar Nadu Negroids, women called Redbone, on up to the Mulbanu, Zazastatu white women, and now you have our race with RH negative blood, and with red hair, hazel eyes, and light skin, and now that the roundup has come, refer to Bible quote John 4:35. I won't read it because it's long, but to power world, now that the Mukmeu aliens have denied an extension for Mulbanu whites, Muadamu Adamites, you see them looking for those with their blood types to wipe out the Nagaru Negroids or other dark hair or fur with RH negative blood. So that's exactly what's happening. In order to get back to the pure whites called eugenics. You see, the reason why they're looking to do that is because they are the ones that are protected. You see what I'm saying? The other species are meant to be like food. But because of the mixing, that's why you have some, I think they said 1/5, if you're 1/5, have 1/5 African or black blood in you, you're black, you're not white. Do you see what I'm saying? So the whole emphasis is about what is in your DNA, what is an indicator or marker as to what extraterrestrials can protect you. Yeah, and it's all going, like I said, going back all the way to Abraham and all the way back to Adam. So these Adamites and these Canaanites, etc., all the different names for them, they have created a hybrid race to offer up to the Mugmeu, the aliens. Okay, so let me just continue reading. Now look at this. RH negatives mostly found in France, as I was saying before, called Basques. Yeah, between northern Spain and southern France. And then he goes on to say, verse 88, Africans who speak Farasuyi French. So the Mukmeu aliens struck them by the weather weapon, that's Haiti. Yeah, in Haiti, they speak a lot of, it's a French colonized country, but their DNA is also now being, or their blood types now are being converted or, changed slowly, gradually into RH negative. So the aliens are actually wiping them out.
Wait, can you repeat that? Sorry.
Right. Africans who, right, so let me read from here. Now let's look at the harvest. Genesis 8:21-22, and Joel 3:13, and Revelation 4:15. It's speaking about killing those people. Yeah, so it's about killing the RH negative blood types, all right? Now the language French, look at this point right now in your Wakut time. First, look at the country Haiti. Africans who speak French, so the Mukmeu aliens struck them by the weather weapon that wiped out thousands of Haitians. And now look at Louisiana. The Mukmamu blacks there also speak French and settled like Haiti by the French. And now look at this, Hurricane Katrina struck them again. Yeah. Now Musbatu says you look around Tapa world to follow. Yeah, you look around the Tapa world to follow that. You find in Louisiana many Mukmamu blacks yet with light Ayantui eyes and thin hair and RH negative blood. The city of Philadelphia has many Mukmamu blacks also with light eyes. Don't believe me? Check it out. Now, for years, I told you to make notice of the so-called Khamim black leaders, be they Muksasu, Christians, Mujwawu, Jews, Muslimu, Muslims of any of the sect of groups. Look at the leaders, always the same. This is no accident or coincidence. This was planned. Kill off or imprison the dark-skinned nappy-haired leaders. Now, don't believe me, check it out. Be it in music or cinemas and videos, how all the blacks don't have tahir, pure and black females, all mixed seeds or red bone or hazel eyes or curly hair, and you all say he got good hair. She got pretty eyes. This is all part of the Mukmeu alien plan. I told you, look for neutrinoids years ago. This was written in The Man from Planet Risk in 1996. Yeah, 95 even, I think. Well, they're right in front of you on TV. So, you're seeing people, they may look Chinese, they may look, you're not too sure what origin they're from. These are known as a neutrinoid race. Yeah, with the RH negative. All right. People you can't tell which race. They're new light-skinned thin fur or fur breed. Rather than say they're Mukmamu, black or Afaf Reeka African or Nubian, they will say I'm other. So there's a particular point of looking for, and I can't find the point. There you go. Right. The Za'al religion of Abraham, the Za'am religion of Wushalam Islam only copies from the Jawawi Jews and Christian religions. It's all part of the same, taken from the Babylonian, Persian, and Sumerian stone tablets. And about Mukmeu aliens who came to this macabre planet, set it up as a farm for the carnivorous and cannibalistic Mukmeu aliens who, as extraterrestrials, are still abducting people by the thousands each year, and now they're seeking the DNA, genes, and blood types to harvest the RH negative and let the others who think they're white fade away or become vara food. So that's what's happening. Yeah. So all this wiping of, Haiti, killing people is all killing them so that they can be harvested. Yeah. Any questions?
Can I speak now?
Yes, okay, roll back. Yeah, sorry. And then
I'm not sure if I'm off topic a bit because
no, you can be because it's question now Q&A now, so it's fine.
thinking the other day, I don't know what patriarch it was, but or if it came out of the Holy Tablets. But story goes that when the Anlakites came down, they were mining for gold, and then they rebelled because the work was too hard, and then they created human beings. Well, yeah, another species to take over the heavy work.
Yeah.
And then there was an update that the gold, what they were mining, was us. Am I correct?
Okay, that's two different. It wasn't the Anunnaki. That was our ancestors, Panataru. So the gold aspect is that we are the golden children. So whenever you read Pana Babyanun, the introduction, yeah, he always refers to us as Munbatu or Musbatu, yeah, as the golden children. So we are these golden children that they've come to mine, as it were, to take back to take back home. So that's one aspect, that's one level of the actual doctrine regarding what's the word? The resurrection, yeah, of who we are. So we've been resurrected by way of Panabab Yanun as golden children. So that's what they've come to actually, what's the word that you used? My mind's gone blank here. My mind gone blank. What word did you use when you said? Sorry?
Mind.
Yeah, to mine. Yeah, to mine them, yeah.
What's confusing me, they said that the work is so heavy and that's why they rebelled. And I'm thinking, what was it hunting us down? Was it so hard for them to?
No, so that's what I'm saying. You're talking about you're talking about two different how can I put it, levels of information. So one aspect is that you had the Anunnaki, okay, who were originally using the Sans people to mine the gold, okay, and eating them at the same time. This was thousands and thousands of years, because what you have to realize is if you put into context or if you put into time frame, they were going back and forth for very, very long time periods. Remember, one cycle of Nibiru is 3,600 years. If you remember, it's called a Shah. Do you remember that? Yeah.
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why I mixed it up.
Yeah. So you have different time periods. So when they went, they'll come. But between the time of them leaving and going, there was other interceptions that were happening with our ancestors. Yeah, so the other interceptions are happening with other extraterrestrials where they were literally taking the DNA and then upgrading it for their own purposes. So that by the time that the Anunnaki would arrive here, man had got to a certain level of intelligence. And then what they would do is they would then intercept again and add another portion of the like, for instance, when you look at some of the Dravidians, some of them have like blue eyes. Have you ever seen a dark-skinned child or black child, a Nagaru child with blue eyes? Okay, that's actually one of the interceptions of the Pleiadians. So every so often, they'll go into the genetics and then they'll upgrade it, like they'll tweak it a little bit, and then they'll leave and then they'll come back. And then, for instance, you got the Aborigines, some of them have got blonde hair. Yeah, that was, again, another tweaking of the genetics, because what they were doing is that they were preparing the body so that eventually it will move into the point where they become Caucasian or of their compatibility. Do you understand? And then when they were of their compatibility, they would then be able to mix in with them and produce children on the planet. So you can read that in Kabir Kadam, okay, Bigfoot. It talks about the million, in fact, let me read it to you. It talks about 9. So you read a book and you think, yeah, this is the one. And then
whilst you're looking for that, I just want to quickly add something, if that's okay.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Zama.
Yeah, I just wanted to say about the golden children that we as Nagaru, as children of the sun, are referred to as golden children, but there are also specific golden children that were born between the years of 1973 and 2003. I just wanted to make that clear distinction.
Appreciate that. Thank you. I cannot find it. I'm pretty sure it's in here. It mentions that there was 9 billion interceptions, but now I can't find the page.
I will also post the links for the scrolls and the clubhouse at the top.
Okay, I can't find it, but if somebody, could you look for, there's a part it mentions about there was 9 billion interceptions in Kabir, near the front, near the beginning. But if you can't find it, don't worry. Yeah, so Zamalta, I hope that answered your question in relation to the mining of the gold or the gold, which was really us. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you're saying it's 2 different timelines and 2 different stories.
Precisely.
I'm trying to put in one.
Yeah, that's essentially what's happening, is that there was 2 different scenarios. Because what the master has done, if you notice, right, sometimes when he was teaching the Sumerian doctrine, he would also say, for instance, Seth will be equivalent to, or should I say, Anu will be equivalent to Re. And he will use those kind of parallels. So what he was doing is he was slowly introducing us to our story. So our story predates all the others. Do you mean? Because we were here originally first. We were seeded on this planet, or we grew with the planet. So many of the stories that it's like it overlaps. So you have to be able to discern when the master is talking about us and when he's talking about the Anunnaki or the Pleiadians, you with me, or the Arconians, etc. So in respect to your question, is that the golden children, as Sekin Sekambreye has pointed out, they were a specific set of children that were born between a particular timeline. Then you have we as Mumbatu, golden children, who are also seeded here, and we have the elixir of life known as Mafkhuzat, which is in our DNA and in our blood. You with me? Which all ties in back to the bloodline of the gods, because we have the Nagarus or the Natarus bloodline in us. And then you have other races who have the Anunnaki and the Pleiadian and the, what's the other one? I think Arconians and many other species who are also in other races on the planet. Yeah, but we are the golden children in respects to that we are children of the Nataru. Okay?
Okay, yeah, it's well clear.
All right.
I know I started to listen to you a bit late, but are you going back to what you were saying before? Are you saying that the African countries who are speaking French or the European languages are in a bit of a danger?
No, what I was saying is that the colonized countries, or where they took our ancestors to by way of the kidnapping to Haiti and other places, by way of European colonization later on, the mixing produced hybrid children. So these hybrids, these extraterrestrials are removing them off the planet. The ones that have Rh negative blood.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what's taking place. So when you hear the stories of Haiti and Hurricane Katrina and things like that, these are actually weather weapons that are being utilized by extraterrestrials to actually remove people off the planet. The same thing that happened in Turkey. Yeah, they used a weather weapon there and to remove certain portions. So that's what these extraterrestrials do. You know, remember the planet has to be reduced to a certain amount of a certain population by the year 2060, if I'm correct. And so this is all being done now with all the wars and all of these other things so that they can remove a certain amount. If you remember, okay, in the holy tablets, do you remember the first part? No one's read it. Do we have a copy of the holy tablets here? Let me see if I can find it. You have the holy tablet, brilliant. I want you to read a particular part. And this will probably start to make more. You have a question, my brother? Wow.
Yeah, just a quick question. Would it be fair to say then that there are golden children of other races?
There are, no, they're called the rainbow children of other races. Yeah, and the rainbow children, you can find them in Europe under the Scandinavians, and also in China with those children that are being born. There's a movie that actually depicts it as an anime called Akira. Yeah, if anyone knows the movie Akira, yeah, it shows you how they were able to enhance the telekinesis or the powers of these children, how they're able to levitate things and move objects, etc. So that's all part of that rainbow children thing.
So what would their purpose be?
Their purpose actually to bring humanity into a higher level. That's their purpose, you know. So we part of our job as Musbatu or Sabians is to actually bring and find some of these golden children, because they're being moved into by what they know as the fire children. If you not read the book, The Golden Children, there's a Patarak. The master explains that every time there's a golden child born, there's a fire child born. And their job through the music industry and all other places is to draw the golden children into their world so that they get lost. So our job is to find the golden children. Parnabayanun is one of the golden children. You with me? So was Tutankhamun and all the others, because essentially what their job is to do is to open vortexes. They're able to open a bridge, the bridge to salvation. Yeah, they're able to open a bridge and a vortex so that we when we've raised our vibrational frequency, are able to go through the vortex. And when stuff hits the fan, we are protected. Yeah. So it's a bigger job than what we're not just standing here trying to sound heavy. That's not our job. Our job is to bring home the children of the Nataru. Yeah. And anybody else who accepts this information. Okay.
So.
All right. You found, you got a book? Right. Sorry, if you bring, I'm going to get you to read it, but it's on, talks about the entities. There's enough entities. Let me find it now. Okay. So it's been so long since I've read some of these things. I can't even remember the quotes and stuff like that. It's really all right. There's a part, my sister. If you're able to find it. Okay. Yeah, if you could find it, there's a part we talk about if there's enough entities that are long time since I read that. So I remember the quote. I remember what the wording, but I can't remember the chapter and verse. But essentially, it's saying if there's enough entities who want the removal of the disagreeables of the planet, yeah, then a way will be made for them to be removed. So this is part of what's taking place, where right now, if you notice, a lot more people are becoming more conscious and aware. Yeah, whether it's through wu-sabat, whether it's through just generally just becoming more aware of, you know, their surroundings and not trusting the government or whatever the case may be. More people becoming more conscious.
Yeah.
So
they're here.
yeah, exactly. You're here. No, seriously, it's a great day and time seeing you lot here because it's a next shift. It's another paradigm shift that's happening. You may not probably realize it because the master teacher, he's always explained that there's always a mental shift, and you children that were born, your job is to become the bridge to the salvation, because your job is to actually teach this information. You'll no longer be bound by religion. You know what I'm saying? You're going to be bound by wu-sabat, actual facts. And actual facts will be your guiding force. It won't be this believing stuff. It will be all about facts. And with that, you're able to teach in a way that will dumbfound the wise. That's what it says in the Bible. I mean, the meek and the children will always teach the elders. So this is what's happening. So it's actually a move. It's a dimensional shift that's taking place. And part of that is that the entities on the planet, or the people on the planet who are now consciously awake, they are now calling out to the, you found it? No, yeah, I can't remember where it is. Yeah, they're calling out to help open the way for these extraterrestrials to come. So what's happening is that the reason why we say Na'ut Mugdad Baded Patah, or there's no opener by Patah or by way of Patah, is because Patah is the one that sealed this dimension. He closed the gateways so that no entities could leave. But now that we are beginning to be conscious, and now we're calling on our ancestors again, and we're getting humanity to start to realize and recognize who they are, that's part of our job. Patah, by way of the cycles, has now begun to open up the gateways. But in order for us to be ready to go through the gateways, we have to have our tuning fork, the body, in the right tones and frequencies. And that's why the language and all the other facets of wu-sabat comes in. You know, learning to turn yourself inside out, speaking a language, chanting in the right tones, etc., because it's a frequency shift. Yeah, and frequency deals with tones and vibrations. So once you know who you are as a being and you're practicing these things, going back to all the blood lineage and what I've just been teaching about in the topic, all of that ties in, you know, because you're cleansing your blood. When you turn yourself inside out, you're actually cleansing your blood of all the impurities, you know, and eating right, chanting right, meditating right, even showing love towards each other. All of that is transforming you so that when the full dimensional shift takes place, you are able to shift with the planet, you know? And as you see, certain people, the sister was asking about why people are dying of cancer, etc. That part of it is because their dimensional shift is locked in, is phased into a different dimension. They're in the past. So their vibrational frequency is not in sync with the dimensional shift. So what nature tends to do is that if nature doesn't recognize you as being part of it, it will phase you out of existence. You know, so it's a bit like the Marvel, what's his name? That guy with the what's his name? Thanos. It's a bit like the Thanos effect, but it's happening naturally. Yeah, it's not going to be a click on a finger and then half of the world disappears. You know what I mean? But it literally is taking place where people are disappearing, you know, or their life expectancy has been accelerated. You know, one minute, you know, he was only 40 years old. He was only 50 years old. You're hearing people dying 40, 50. Do you get what I'm saying? Young, because of the acceleration and the dimensional shift taking place. Did you have a question? Or were you going to say something, Zamal?
allows you to mix in and everything else, but the DNA is corrupted, isn't it? So basically, the DNA is corrupted by way of mental vibrations. You're not actually using that tool to capacity. You actually.
Who's dinging? Who's pinging? He's got a lover. He's got a lovebird calling him.
Basically, what I was saying was, in terms of that actual breakdown of the mental capacity, so therefore, God, again, like mixing with DNA.
You're talking about the DUF gene?
No, even that.
Oh, okay.
Basically, we go deeper, your DNA molecules inside the actual genes of the blood, like you said earlier. So what I'm saying is, the whole point I'm making is that certain human beings, in the black, white, green, whatever, certain human beings on the planet will not make it.
That's right. Literally, simply they won't make the dimensional shift. Yeah. Okay. Any more questions online?
Hi, can I ask a question?
Yes, you can. Go ahead.
I'm Kathleen from the US. Nice to meet you. I'm O positive. Is there anything special about the O positive blood?
Because I remember blood?
O positive.
Okay, it's a universal donor. That's what O positive blood is. It's a universal donor. So if we go back to our slide, okay, you have here. All right, can you see the slide?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so you have O negative and O positive. So you can see the factor is that its ability to literally take all the antibodies. You with me? In your DNA. So you have A negative, all right, that has antibodies of B. You have B negative that has antibodies of A, right? And O literally is universal.
Okay.
Yeah.
I understand.
So literally anyone can be transfused with that blood.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Right. You're welcome. Any other questions? Repeats, rereads? No? Let's check online. Okay, that's some weird questions there. You have a question? Oh, for you have a question? Okay. All right. There's no other question. We can start wrapping up class. Yeah. Right, so let me just read from Pa to Raw, because this is some of the... Right, so going on to the blood types. From Pa to Raw, verse 25 of chapter 11 is called the blood. Okay, so verse 26. Actually, no, sorry, verse 25. The true life is in the blood. That is why in ancient religions such as Wiccanism of Europe, they always offer blood. In Buddhism, they offer blood. The Mayans offered blood. And Christians today repeat, by the blood of Christ, you are saved. It's always been about blood. Theirs is of aliens, Rh negative blood types versus earthlings, Rh positive blood types. Today, Mukasu, Caucasoids must eat jasad meat with each meal, and they will eat it raw or rare, showing blood. They seek blood, create cinemas about vampires over and over, bloodlusting creatures, yet always from Meirap, Europe. Now our Salah race loves to Baru eat jasad meat, Bashar human flesh, because of rape and mixing of many of our own race have their blood inside. The Adamu, Salal, Adamite race live in the image of the beast, their gods who made them. And now many of our own people live in the image of the Adamite race who mix their seeds inside of them. I, Parnabab Yananan, the master Yanun, none other before me who claim to come and save you have ever taught you these actual facts that you can investigate and see for yourself. Don't reject me or wu nawab. It's your last chance for taklos, salvation. Link back to your own Salafu ancestors, not the Kameu, Gadadu, alien gods of their bloodlusting religions. Most Kokozoids don't know these actual facts about themselves. It's kept from them until the year 2000 AD, in the uncovering of the many stone tablets of Sumeria, as well as the Dead Sea Scrolls, agnostic gospels that expose the truth about their damam, blood. You decide. So here it tells you the blood types, show you the blood types, a diagram. Can't really see it, but basically you have brown, 7 ether Indians. That was Atum, yeah, who was B negative. Then you have his wife or his partner or consort known as Lilith, who was AB negative. So if you look at these blood groups here, all right, on the screen. Just move out of the way. Sorry, Zuma, I'm coming. Is that better? Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Was Lilith Travadu?
Tua. That's exactly here. Brown 7 ether Indians. Yeah, so Lilith was Travadu. Then on the other side of this chart, you have black 9 ether Africans. A positive was Ptah. AB positive was Anna, his wife or consort. Then you move down to Adapa. Adapa was RH-O negative. And TT was RH-O positive. Thus, from them, the twins known as Abel and Akumia, they were RH-O positive, same like their mother. Then you have Nanar, okay, whose twin was TT, and he was RH negative, and she was RH positive. So from Nanar and TT birthed, what's his name? Cain. Yeah, that's where Cain comes from. So Cain was the birth or rape of who we call TT's Eve. Yeah, so when you're looking at your stories and it says, and the Lord has given me a child, that child or that Lord was Nana.
This guy's
yeah, thank you. Right, then you move on to the children of TT is Awan, who was RH negative, and Cain or Cain, who was RH negative. Then you have Lulua, who was RH negative. That was his sister. Then you can look at this, if you want to have a look at this afterwards, feel free, after we end class. Then you had Enoch. Yeah, so all your biblical characters, the master teacher's giving you their blood types. Now, who else has done that in this day and time? Yeah, no, showing you who these blood types and where they're coming from. So you had Enoch, who was RH negative, and then his wife, Atlia, who gave birth to Irad and Daya, his wife. And then it goes on and obviously doesn't list the blood types, but you can get the gist from that. This is where your blood types is coming from. Okay, so this is from the book Parta Kro, The Decision. I don't think it's in publication anymore, or it might be. Check upstairs, or you might be able to order it. Okay, with that comes to the end of our class on blood types. Bloodline of the gods and actual facts of slavery and human sacrifice. Okay. I'd like to thank everybody for coming to our Q&A, question answer class. Oh, hold on. Is there a question in the chat room? See, right, how to keep vibrational frequency quiet. Let's look at the questions. AFC is sun protection, maybe semi-supine from Alexander. Okay, and herbs and diet. What is AFC? Okay. Someone's asked what is AFC. AFC are the natural tones and vibration of us as natural nature beings. So as the African race, every race has a vibrational frequency and tone and a note that is assigned to them. And our one is FAC or AFC. So the A is to do with your body. And then you have the F, which is to do with nature. And then you have C, which is to do with the universe or the cosmos. Okay, so that's those tones are what we should be vibrating on and utilizing in our everyday. So you can actually get something called a harmonium. If you look into the harmonium, it used to be here actually. Yeah, the harmonium is a natural wind instrument, and what it does is it produces the sounds which natural nature produces, and with that you can tune your body into the natural vibrations of the planet, you know, and just by simply just humming it. When you're playing it, you just hum the tune until you can feel the vibration. You know, you have certain tuning apps that you can download from Google, which you can practice and see if you got the right tone and frequency, etc. Okay, so that's your FAC. That's essentially, we are natural tuning forks because your body is made up of crystal. It's a crystal formation. Where is it? Do I want it back? Yeah. Tour. Yeah, felt that. Yeah, so that's what the FAC is, and then that's what we are. We're natural tuning forks. Okay. This is in the book. Sorry, this week. Yes, that's right. Great before going to sleep. All right. One more. Okay, so thank you very much. Greatly appreciate it. Okay, right. That's it. So Tawakum, thank you very much for coming to our other question answer class. Hold on, someone playing it. Oh, that's you. Okay. Right, that's what it sounds like, the harmonium. So let me just finish class. Let me wrap up class and then. Yeah, so Tawakum Lahe Yatoy. So thank you for coming to our question answer class again. And yeah, you can clap. Be sure to check out our website, okay? Because if you are interested in becoming a member, go on to www. Just type it up here. United Sabians Worldwide. Okay. And you can go, there's a bookshop, you can get books on there, you can find out more about the culture, you can find out about the members area. Why isn't this coming through? Yeah, become a member, ask questions, come to our events as well. There is one tomorrow. I don't know if anyone can make that, but there's one tomorrow regarding our ancestor Ashashtat and what she represents, what they refer to as Easter, which is the wrong information about our ancestor, and we'll give you the true actual facts. Okay. That is it. I'd like to say thank you again, and it would not be possible unless you make it possible as students. Tawakum and Ashok, and take care, everybody.
Tota tomorrow and Ashok, Weather, Paris.
Antakapio for Ashok. Yes, ma'am. Save this.